Good afternoon, everyone. You are most welcome to another edition of our monthly virtual seminar. Dr. Akremet, can you hear me? Unmute yourself and respond if you
Hi,
can hear.
Dr. Arthur. Good afternoon. I can hear you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yes, you are all welcome to today's edition of our virtual seminar, monthly virtual seminar. We have another interesting topic to discuss. What are we discussing? We are discussing resilience and emotional intelligence in our children and supporting their development. You are all most welcome. What are we going to talk about today? Resilience. We are going to talk about resilience and emotional intelligence. Resilience, I like to say that it's in the face of adversity, our ability to bounce back. So the simple analogy is the one used for a tree, whereby in the face of all the thunderstorms and winds and all that, you find a tree bending, but standing at the end of the wind. Some do break anyway. So for us humans, in the face of adversity and all that, we are still standing. That tells our resilience level. Some do break. And this is what we are going to discuss, resilience in our children. I mean, if you think about what the stress levels that our children are going through, particularly those in the secondary schools and even in the universities, realize that they need this resilience. Some do break down. How are we going to help them develop this resilience in them? Then again, with emotional intelligence too, most of our emotional intelligence has a strong impact on our decisions and behaviors. So the intelligence with regards to emotions is also very critical here, and our children need it. So we're also going to discuss that how we can help them develop that. That is what we are going to critically discuss today, how we can help our children develop these two important traits in them. By way of our usual housekeeping rules, the moment you join us, please do well to mute yourself. If the system does not mute you, mute yourself. Those of us who are regulars know this housekeeping rule. So I know that some immediately do that. Then again, we are going to discuss mental health. Resilience and emotional intelligence is very much related to mental health because when the person breaks down, uh, gradually develops into mental health issues. So we are going to discuss mental health. If you are given the opportunity to make a comment, which I usually ask you to do, you have the right to put in your comments in the chat box and I'll read them along the line. Please be as sensitive as you can be, and even during the question time. Then again, you just have to raise your hand during the question time. You just click on the question button, raise your hand. I'll notify you to unmute yourself or unmute you here, and you ask your question or make your comment. Finally, there is a helpline that those who need psychological first aid can call in to seek for that psychological first aid or even get referral to a senior professional to respond to you. So, and the number is 0800 678 another 678. So that's by way of what's there is an echo in my microphone and it's not helping me at all. Let me fix that.
Are you sure we?
Beauty, can you please mute yourself? Okay, so I'm back. So like I was saying, that's by way of the housekeeping rules, those that are stated. So the helpline is 0800 678 another 678. So to discuss the issue of resilience and intelligence, emotional intelligence, supporting the development in our children. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, let me check this echo and get back to you shortly. Good. I am back.
Recording in progress.
I have some good. I want to check. Um, Dr. Kemet, can you please mute your phone? I think I should be fine now. Yes, I am fine now. Dr. Kemet, am I fine now? Has the echo stopped?
I think so. So sorry about that. I'm logged on with two different devices because I was having problems
Yes, I
getting
understand.
on.
I understand. We're talking in the background, so I understand. Okay. So my sincere apologies, ladies and gentlemen, but I think we are good to go now. At this point, we have some great facilitators who are going to support us digest the issue about resilience and emotional intelligence in our children. and how we can support their development. First, I have Dr. Mrs. Peggy Asiedu Ekrement. She is a specialist psychiatrist with the West African College of Physicians and the College of Physicians and Surgeons. She works at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital and is very passionate about mental health, especially issues to do with children and adolescents. Dr. Asiedu Ekrement obtained a first degree in nutrition and biochemistry from the University of Ghana and obtained her medical degree from the University of Ghana Medical School. She also holds a Master of Science degree in Child and Adolescent Mental Health from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. She is also sub-specializing in child psychiatry. Currently also a part-time lecturer and is involved in the training of medical students from the University of Ghana and Family Health Medical School during their psychiatry rotations. She also supervises resident doctors, medical officers, house officers, and physician assistants in her team. That is Dr. Peggy Asiedu Ekrement. Dr. Asiedu Ekrement, say hello to our participants. And how are you doing today? I hope this technology has not taken it off. Dr. Ekrement, well, she'll be back on. So let me go ahead, still introduce our next facilitator. Our next facilitator is George Ekem Ferguson. He is a senior clinical psychologist at the Department of Psychiatry and the National Cardiothoracic Center of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Ghana. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology and a Master of Philosophy degree in clinical health psychology from the University of Cape Coast. She is a scientist practitioner with over 7 years of experience in clinical practice and has been involved in various research projects as lead and collaborator with several peer-reviewed publications to his credit. George, please say hello to our participants and how are you doing today? Hello. Hello, George.
Hello, Doc.
Yes. Say hello to our participants and how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
I'm doing very well. Good afternoon. Yeah. Hello, Doc. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, me here.
Okay, thank you very much. Our final facilitator for the day is Mrs. Ethel Obintrev. She is a registered clinical psychologist and consultant specialized in working with children and adolescents. She has received training in both in Ghana and the UK, and her experiences have equipped her with a diverse skill set to cater for individuals from multicultural backgrounds. Ethel is the executive director of Fafanto Psych organization dedicated to promoting mental health, reducing stigma surrounding mental illness, and providing mental health support through assessment, diagnosis, and interventions. She is also an employee assistance program service provider to several organizations. So, ladies and gentlemen, we realize that all our facilitators know their stuff, their experience in the area of child and adolescent issues. So we'll get the ball rolling. I like ladies first. So let me start with you, Ethel. Ethel, are you there? I can't hear you, Ethel. Unmute yourself.
Okay. Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good. So let's start the conversation and let's get the basic understanding of what we are discussing: resilience and emotional intelligence and our development. Okay, so in simple terms, I want us to get the two ends of the pole: a child who is resilient and the one who is not resilient, so that we can distinguish between the difference. So in simple terms, what do we mean by a child who is resilient? So we'll talk about that one. We'll come to the negative aspect later on so that we don't get confused here. When we say a child is resilient, what do we mean by that? Francis Attinga, please mute yourself. Etta, please go on.
Right. So in very simple terms, like you mentioned earlier on, when we talk of resilience in a child, that is the one who's able to, using a spring, that it might receive some pressure or force. And the pressure or force would be the unique experiences that individual might be having, or that child might be having. And then being able to achieve that they were. And so everybody gets to experience life. And what I mean by life is the experience we all get to have, some good, some bad. And so what do you do in that moment? How do you get to manage those difficult situations? And then your ability to still maintain your well-being at the end of the day. And in simple terms, that is what it is. So when you mentioned earlier about the ability to bounce back, that is what it is. The ability to still have my mental, physical well-being intact, even after going through some challenges or difficulties that life would ordinarily throw at me.
Thank you very much. So now we get a child who, when we say this child is resilient, that is that understanding. Okay, that's clear and simple. George.
Yes, so I believe that
I'm asking you a different question.
oh, okay,
Emotional intelligence. If you have two children, yes. If you have two children before you, two adolescents before you, how would you classify one as being more superior than the other when it comes to emotional intelligence?
Okay, so when we are talking about issue of emotional intelligence, we are dealing with the ability of one to be able to identify, being aware of their emotions, and then being able to use emotions effectively. So in two children, one that is managing himself intelligence is the one that can appreciate the kind of emotions at a point in time, being able to recognize that maybe I am angry or maybe I am sad. Okay, and then knowing that there's an action, reaction, angry at people, act to them in a aggressive that may have any to handle by first recognizing other people in that situation. On the other hand, the one that is not emotionally intelligent may not emotions, or in situations where they recognize their emotions are not really able to manage or regulate them when interacting and engaging with others.
The line from your end is not helping at all. It's not your fault, I understand. This internet issues. George, can you come again and give us a summary? Let's see if it will be much better this time. I wonder if he even hears me. George, can you hear me?
Hello, Doc.
Yes. Your line
Hello, Doc.
wasn't too good. Not your fault. If you maybe you can raise the volume on your machine and maybe give us a summary of what you said. Let's see if you can get it right. Yes. Raise the volume of
Yes. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. So in effect, what I'm trying to say is that for one to be emotionally intelligent, one should be able to first be aware of their own emotions, to manage these emotions in an effective manner, such that they don't harm their own self and they don't also harm people that are around them. So basically dealing with emotional intelligence, you're looking at these three key areas. There are others that there, but then being self-aware is very important. Being these emotions positively is very important for children and adolescents.
Okay. Dr. Clement, let me ask you, in your practice, how realistic are these two concepts when you are interacting with the children and the adolescents? How realistic are they? How do you see the impact in what brought them there and even how you are managing them and their behavior and all that? How does these two traits come in? How realistic are they? Oh, this internet. Hello, Dr. Clement. She's dropped off. Etta, can you help us out there with that question, because you are all practitioners and you experience them?
Right. So I think your question was in practice.
In practice, yes,
Yes. Right. So if I understand your question, then that would mean that, if we have a child who's not resilient or might be having some emotional regulation challenge, or, they're not emotionally intelligent, what it does is actually gets to impact their relationships with other people. Then the other bit is that, life's experiences. Let's say that the child is coming from a home where, unfortunately, they are not allowed to express themselves. And children learn by what they see. So as a model, what it is you are doing is what they will learn from, not what you're telling them, but they watch and observe and then they learn. And so if you have a child that is probably struggling in terms of their emotion or regulating their emotions, there are difficulties in terms of how they would express themselves. Sometimes they have difficulties even putting name to the feelings that they are having. And so when they come in, one of the things that you would see would be the difficulty and the frustration that they might be going through. And the output would probably be the frustration. They are banging doors, they are hitting other people, they are crying, they're screaming, all of these things. And there's never anything that a child would experience or would show that hasn't definitely got a reason for what it is they're doing. And so in practice, these are some of the things, and definitely gets to impact their relationship with other children because they don't know how to express themselves. And if they don't, although this is about children, I'll definitely find a way to point it back to the parents and then the significant others in the lives of the child. And I'm sure as we go along, a lot more of that will come out as well.
Okay. Fair enough. That's a good one. So George, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Doc.
So how would a child who is not emotionally intelligent respond to certain situations that you think that naturally they should have, or fairly, ideally, that is how they should have behaved. But because they are not emotionally intelligent, they took the other way. Give us a scenario and give us a better explanation.
Okay, so just to build up on what Ethel has just said, I think it's just a build up to what Ethel has just narrated. Basically, the emotional a child that is not emotionally intelligent, or the way to see this being manifesting is mostly through their behaviors. Okay, so throwing temper tantrums here and there, being socially withdrawn in some instances where people are, when these children are sad or depressed, they are not engaging in activities that previously they were normally used to engage in, and all of that. So these are all clear behavioral issues that arises whenever people are emotionally not intelligent or are not regulating their emotions quite well, based on issues that they are encountering in the home or even in the school. So it could be a child in school responding to a question, and maybe the feedback that comes is not a favorable feedback for that child. And so at the end of the day, the child calls back and is not able to actively participate in any class activities any longer because they are not interpreting or regulating their emotions quite well. They feel down, they feel depressed. So the best option for them is then let me just stay away from any form of activity within the school confines. On the other way around, it could be a child that has been offended by a colleague within the classroom while the teacher is teaching, and the child rising up and then being aggressive towards the colleague, or being aggressive towards the person that have actually committed that act against them. So in all these situations, you realize that there could be other ways that these children could manage the situation, but given their emotions at the point in time and are not able to regulate it effectively, they affect their social relationships with their colleagues.
Good, thank you. So at this point, now we have a clear understanding how lack of resilience and lack of emotional intelligence manifest in our children, and when they have it, what they are likely to do in terms of decisions and in terms of behavior. Good. Now let's get to the crux of the matter, how we can develop this. Let's get that understanding. Peggy. Hello, Dr. Ackerman.
Yes, Dr. Arthur, I'm here now. So sorry for
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. I can't, you know what the situation is. So I know you are listening because we are using a different line. But how can building children's resilience benefit their general development and mental health? You have been in the world and you see them every day. I've passed by, see how your children do. So how does resilience help them in their general development and in their mental health? Because when you think about what I mean, if you know what is going on in the secondary schools, what our children tell us when they came back home and all that, it's quite a stressful environment that they find themselves in. But they cannot break, they only can bend. And bending is the resilience. They need to bounce back. So how does this resilience help them in their general development and their mental health status?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that the other speakers have talked about the definition of resilience and all, but when you start talking about resilience, there's always the need to probably mention risk, because when it comes to development of mental health conditions or somebody coping well with their life, it's always a balance of these two. So the risk is the danger or the trauma or the harm that is staring you right in the face. And the resilience is the ability to be able to bounce back, like we've said. In terms of having resilient children, it's able to boost their self-confidence. That's the first thing that it's able to do. So we usually will say that some sources of resilience could, even physical attractiveness is a source of resilience, intellectual ability, etc. But it reduces the risk of one developing this mental health issue. So you are faced with a trauma, you are faced with a very difficult situation. Maybe somebody is bullying you in school, or somebody is physically abusing you, or you are so stressed with schoolwork. But being resilient will help you better manage the stress and help you adapt better. And by so doing, it decreases that chance of you developing a condition, and it generally will boost your development, because if a child is very self-confident, is optimistic, even in the face of things not going on well, cognitively, they develop more, and it decreases the chances of actually having a trigger for a mental health challenge or problem. So these are some of the ways that it sort of acts as a buffer. If I were to put it in layman's terms, as a buffer, or help them cope well, so then it decreases all those chances and will impact on their learning and their general achievements in the end. Yes.
Okay, okay. Etta, would you like to top it up, or I should go ahead?
I could add a few things if that's okay. So
Yes,
just
please
adding
do.
to what Doc said, when it comes to resilience, and then also the general development and mental health of maybe a child or an adolescent, what happens is once the significant others or adults are able to give or equip children with what it is they need, that's the needed tools to deal with whatever challenges that they face. It actually would mean that there's some flexibility in terms of their thinking, being able to understand that sometimes, for instance, we can make mistakes, and making mistakes is actually a part of the process of learning, and that there's nothing wrong with that in the face of difficulties. It also helps in terms of the social skills. So you mentioned, remember earlier on, I mentioned the part about individuals or children who are unable to regulate their emotions, that once you're able to control your emotions, it also definitely gets to impact your social interactions and then social skills with others, and then also provides you with the tools for problem solving as well. And all of these generally get to impact the individual's psychological well-being. And so for a lot of what we're talking about, we're actually looking at coping strategies, which is very important, ability to regulate the individual's emotions, their mindset, how they perceive the experiences that they are having on a regular, and then also the ability to problem solve, always looking at, or probably being optimistic as much as possible as well, and then also focusing on their physical well-being. So all of these are very important when it comes to resilience, and then also the emotional intelligence.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Problem solving, being optimistic, having better good coping strategies and all that. Okay. George, let me come to you, George. So I think that in developing these traits, one needs a supporting and a nurturing environment to do that. What are the key things for an environment to be supporting and nurturing, and how does it support in the building of the resilience and emotional intelligence in our children?
Okay, so the environment plays a key role. So when you are looking at factors that contribute to or promote resilience as well as emotional intelligence. You're looking at it from
George, unmute yourself.
okay. Sorry about that. So I'm saying that when we are looking at
a supportive and a nurturing environment,
the environment, is resilience as well as emotionally. The environment is very important. And looking at the factors that contribute to resilience and emotion, now I'm saying that is a multi-systemic form of factors that actually contribute, and a nurturing environment is certainly one of them. And in that nurturing environment, you are looking at environment where people can express themselves. Okay, people can feel free to express themselves, especially in the area of emotional intelligence, where you have parents that are available and are also supportive. Okay, so in some homes, they are showing good and not being good model. Children are not allowed to feel free to be able to express themselves, to be able to do things their own way. It's difficult for them to be able to space homes where parents are open-minded, listens to their children, they are firm, and then they are supportive of their activities. And so that helps them to be able to develop these skills that we are talking about. Within the school environment, you are looking at an environment that is also inclusive, environment that accepts everybody, okay, regardless of their shortcomings or regardless of their flaws. So when we have an inclusive environment where it also helps people to be able to flourish, yes, as well as their emotional, a provision of safe, there should be safe spaces where people can act able and not be under any form of pressure. But as Dr. Ekrement mentioned earlier, there are risk factors, and these risk factors will contribute to people not being able to effectively build their resilience skills. And these risk factors are within that same environment that we are talking about. And so if we want to promote people's resilience with or minimize these trauma or risk factors that will feel relaxed and they are not under any form of
George, your network, but Ethel, you have a better network. Can you top it up?
Absolutely. So just like
threats, and that will also help to encourage.
George, Ethel has come to the rescue from the network problems.
Okay, so just adding on to what George said, I think it's important we understand the environment in which we find ourselves.
These ones.
Okay, George is still talking.
George, can you please hold on? He's even dropped off, my goodness. When he comes back up. And so go ahead.
All right. So I think we'll take it from the point where you talked of the environment. I think it's very important we understand that environment definitely gets to play a role. And I'm going to take us all back on a journey, as in all of us, growing up and what the experiences were like. If at this point in time, would I agree that the stress, depression, and anxiety in adults is really high today? Yet we're talking about mindfulness, we're talking about eating well, taking care of yourself, all of those things. We're talking about all of these things. So then what could actually be the reason for the rise in all of these experiences? It is because of what we might have experienced ourselves as children in our childhood. And I'm sure a lot of you would agree with me. We receive some kind of imprint. For example, children are supposed to do certain things, are not supposed to express their emotions. You can't talk about how you feel about something. You listen, you obey, and you go with it. So for the most part, and at this point in our lives, we're also doing exactly what was done to us in our childhood, or we're going completely off by doing the complete or doing the extreme of that experience in the lives of our own children. And you know, we all teach, or we need to teach by learning, you know, how to manage our feelings, how to label them, how to even express ourselves. And so that environment is really important. Just this week, I was driving by and I saw a mother who was crossing the road with a child. Now, the child I should think should be about maybe 4 or 5, but was wearing slippers that was way bigger than the actual size. And so just when they got to a certain point, the child tripped, but because she was holding on to him, he didn't fall. And the usual, unfortunately, the unfortunate experience was she was shouting at the child right there, you know, as if the child had, you know, made a mistake. But the truth of the matter is that even for us as adults, when we're wearing something bigger than us, there's a possibility or potential that you might fall, you know. So when that happens, how you are responding to that experience definitely gets to impact your child in a lot of ways. Now, there are times where growing up, you know, you probably commit an error, a blunder, and your parent would hit you. And then when you start crying, they say, stop crying, you know, all of that as well. So you are told to shut down. Sometimes even the look that is given to you is all a way of communicating something to you as a child. And all of these are imprints that parents have passed on to us. Now, what are we doing as adults? What we're doing at this point is definitely going to play a huge role in the lives of our children. So that environment, that culture that we have created would either get to create a resilient child, an emotionally intelligent child, or not. So if we're teaching children to repress their feelings, for example, you are not allowed to feel. Over time, all of these things get bottled up and they will come out. They will find ways of coming out. So sometimes you have children that are very aggressive. They are showing a rage in response to something that is triggering them from that environment. But then when you create an environment which is very conducive and letting your child feel that it is okay, it is safe to actually express yourself. I understand how you're feeling or what it is that you're going through. It is okay to make mistakes. Then it means you are giving them the space to thrive. You're teaching them that it's okay to make mistakes and that there are other avenues of looking at that same experience. Maybe they can look at other ways of doing better, you know. And so the environment in which we find.
Ethel, unmute yourself.
Okay, so yes. So the environment in which you find yourself definitely is a big thing when it comes to how we're getting to teach or showing our children to become resilient in the face of their own experiences, based on the imprint that we have had ourselves.
Okay, so that I think that all our experiences as children is different from our children now. And the style of parenting that our parents did, we should not try to emulate it. It's a different environment now, whereby we need to give them that freedom to express themselves, create that environment whereby they can say what they want to say. And we also need to be fair, both in the school and at the home as well, in addition to all that you've said. One thing that I want us to look at is failure. Because even in the universities, we've heard anecdotal stories where students have tried to die by suicide because they failed their exams and they are getting rushed to the hospitals. They don't pass their IA and it's a whole lot of problem. George, are you okay now with your internet? Unmute yourself. Let me come to you, Peggy.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello, George. Hello, George. Dr. Kemet, are you there? Peggy, are you there? Unmute yourself. Peggy, unmute
Yes,
yourself.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Very good. I want us to discuss failure. Failure is, I think that when we're kids, there is something you should know. If you do it and you fail, try again, that sort of thing. I've forgotten how that rhyme sounds. I've forgotten how. But I'm thinking that we need to teach our children that failure is part of life. It provides an opportunity to learn again and develop even on a skill that you have. How can we teach our parents to how can we teach our children to embrace failure? Failure provides an opportunity to learn again and be better at what even you know. We've heard the stories from the universities, those who have tried to die by suicide, getting rushed to the hospitals, crying all day long, getting sick and all that because they failed one exam or the other. But we need to teach them to embrace that it's a learning opportunity. To have that mindset that it's a learning opportunity. How can we teach them that?
So I think that the narrative is changing a bit more, because now we're beginning to say that if at first you don't succeed, you dust yourself, you get up and you try again. I think it has to do with normalization of making mistakes. We need to be able to normalize mistake making or normalize failure for our children to know that sometimes it's okay to make a mistake. And in doing that, you need to be creating, or you need to be able to provide that sort of environment for them to feel safe in, because, you know, obviously school fees are going up. So if you have a child going to school, you are paying so much and the child is not performing. Sometimes you as the adult, you tend to want to vent your emotions and your frustrations in this current economy on the child. But there has to be an atmosphere where a child knows that it's okay to make a mistake, but when I make a mistake, what's next? So you have made this mistake. Let's learn a lesson from this. Let's see how you can solve this problem. We keep talking about problem solving to be able to, you know, get out of that situation when the situation arises again. And we need to probably cultivate a mindset of growth in the child. So I'm not able to make it. I want to try again. I can try several times. We can also use normal examples. We all know about all these people who created Microsoft and other things. People just didn't start and, you know, get to that point. But I think as parents, as adults in the lives of children, we need to be able to create that safe environment and let them know that it's okay. But we also have to be role models, because children watch a lot. How do you behave when you make a mistake, or how do you behave when you fail? It goes for parents, it goes for other adults, it goes for teachers, how we also go. The children will watch us and model us, because that's what they do. But when we are able to lead by example and create that space and allow the child to be able to reflect on the situation and learn from that opportunity for growth, I think that we'll be able to help children embrace failure as a learning opportunity. And this all will contribute to their developing resilience over time.
Thank you very much. We should change the narrative for them that it is part of. Thank you very much, Samantha. She has reminded me, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. Yeah, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. We should change the narrative for them to let them understand that it is part, but it's a learning opportunity. I don't know whether the narrative, the competition that is being created is from school or it's home, but I think that it's intertwined. We are doing as part as parents and putting so much pressure on them not to fail, and the school is they come home with loads and loads and loads of homework without any. But we need to change that narrative. Thank you very much. If you have a comment, please do share, and I'll read them along the line. Let me read a few here. Juliet, Alote, Anan. It's a lesson you should hear. Try again, try again. If at first you don't succeed, try again, try again. then your courage would appear and you will persevere. You will conquer, never fear, try again, try again. Thank you very much, Juliet. Let children understand that failure is part of the game, but there is always another chance to come back. Thank you. Okay. Ophelia, you're asking about the recording. I'm sure this is the very first time you are attending to us. This is the 27th edition of this virtual seminars. All of them, you can find them on YouTube. So hopefully by Monday, just type in the title into YouTube and you get the recording. And when you type it in, all the others will pop up. You can equally subscribe so that when we put it in immediately, you can get them. That's about it for. Judith is asking, is there a link for questions, please? No, there is no link for questions. Please do a shorthand and write them down if you so. But you will have the recording. It will be on YouTube, so you can have access to all of them. You can have access to all of them. Okay, so you can still comment in the chat box and I'll read them. Gloria Boatima Ando. Hi, Gloria. How have you been? She says good delivery at Etel. Yes. So, Etel, let me ask you this. I want you to share some examples of specific activities or strategies that we can do them at home to help build this emotional intelligence in our children.
Okay, so every experience can be a teachable moment. That's what I believe. Sometimes as you're even sitting and watching TV, maybe you're watching with your children a show that can be used as a teachable moment. When you're driving on the way to school, maybe dropping off your children, they're having a particular conversation, that can also be a teachable moment. Everything that we do can actually be used as a teachable moment. And so one of them, the other bit can also be role play. You can actually encourage your children as well in terms of engaging in very constructive self-talk. I can do this. This is something that is not difficult. This person has done it. I can also make the effort. These are all positive ways of encouraging oneself. And then also one of the best ways I keep on saying would be to actually use the adult or that's the adult in the picture, ensuring that you're actually doing yourself rather than just saying. Because, the other interesting thing is, you mentioned earlier on a bit about the expectations that are coming in. Parents are expecting so much from children. The school is also expecting so much from the children because they want to maintain a particular standard, maybe B, C, the top, whatever, distinction, all of that. Then the parent, I've never also come across any parent who was never smart. Every parent says that they're very sharp in school. And so they throw that or probably, just drop that into the children with these high expectations in terms of performance. But what about the journey in getting there? What about the effort that it takes to get there? These are the things we should be celebrating. I've realized over the period, especially with parents that come into sessions, they are very focused on the end goal, but forget the journey and the process. Encouraging your children to enjoy the process. That is how we learn. We're very much focused on the end. Then it becomes very difficult because all we're doing is just trying to meet that end by whichever means or ways that we have to. But it doesn't have to be so. So we should do that through the role play that we're doing, constructive self-talk. You can even encourage your children, for instance, to journal. So you can give them, we have very, I don't have one here. I could have actually shown, maybe this one can be a very simple one. This is maybe something very simple as this. You get your child one with a pencil, something very fancy. We have very fanciful pencils, sometimes with a very unique look. Anything very cute, you just give to your child and let them learn to express themselves. Let them learn to talk about their feelings without the fear of judgment. Earlier on, you mentioned something that we should be firm. Yes, we should be firm. But then also one thing that holds children back is when we're very judgmental. We don't want to listen completely to them. And they can tell when we are not listening. So they can come to you a number of times as parents. Sometimes you have your child, very young children coming, mommy, all the time. And we have a lot of things going on with us, but we have to make the time. We have to ensure that we're actually listening because they can tell when we are listening. So active listening is very important. And you can also do the role play as much as possible. And every life experience can also be a teachable moment. You can use what they just heard on TV, what somebody went through, use that to teach them something. Just, quickly turn it and make it very personal. So this is what you can do. These are ways we can do that rather than, for instance, getting to what we call the helicopter parenting. The parent is constantly, hovering over the child and expecting them to behave in a certain way, expect them to do things in a certain way. Give them the space as well to learn from their mistakes. And then they let them also know they can always come back to you so that you can actually talk about what it is they have experienced, what it is they're going through. How did they think about it? How did they process it? What do you think we can do differently in the situation? So you're giving them moments to actually think. That's where the critical thinking also comes in. So they can think about the experience and then come up with other ways of dealing with the challenges or experiences that they have or might be going through.
Okay, thank you. Well, we should be active listeners. We should look out for opportunities and make every experience a teachable one. Do self-talk, do role play, and all that.
Constructive
All right,
self-talk, yes.
thank you very much, Ethel. I'll read some more comments, and if there are questions in them, I'll redirect them. But before I go to the comments, Dr. Clement, would you like to add something to what Ethel said before I move on?
Okay, I think I would like to add a little bit. I think that as parents, helping a child be able to label their emotion also is quite important. So help them to be able to put how they are feeling in perspective, which will help them vocalize future happenings like that. And I think in my reading, I found some other, it's like a school-based thing that it's called ruler that can actually help the child be able to put their things. So the R is for them to recognize how they are feeling. The U is understand what is happening, what is making them feel this way. The L is to label the exact sentiments that may be going on. The E is to express. So now that I know how I'm feeling, I'm able to say it. Then also, the other R is to regulate. So how do I regulate this feeling? How do I maintain it? Or how do I learn from it? Or how do I make sure that I'm not acting out of whatever emotion that I'm feeling. So that's the little bit I wanted to add to that.
All right, thank you very much. We should allow and support our children to label their emotions and teach them the good aspects of these emotions. Okay, so let me read some comments. This is coming from Frimpong. There is an existing narrative of learning hard. However, that can be replaced with learning joyfully and produce what you know. Okay. Galazi S9, please, what about if you are a new member? I don't understand the question, Galazi S9. Technopop 4, how do you help a child who is very beautiful and every time she goes to school, she's being approached by guys and she's getting frustrated? Ethel, please note this down. I'll come back to you with this question. Ethel, I just read a question for you, so
well noted.
Thank you very much. Okay. Gloria Boatima Ando, let's as parents share our failure with our kids. So it encourages them that failure is part of the journey to success. When we are bragging that we were first in class, how can you share success? You are bragging that I top first in class all through and through. How can you share failure with them? But anyway, we need to be truthful to them and tell them and share failures. Of course, being first in class doesn't come with failures. Okay, that's just on the lighter note. Galatians 9, how will you know the next meeting? What next meeting? Lydia, the thing about failure is to help them find the reason why they failed and then come up with a solution and help them come up with a solution, if so be it. Ohima, very educative. Thank you, Ohima. Frempong comes back, helping, waste and effort, verbal kids and adults to tolerate and accommodate non-verbal kids. Juliet Alote Anand, very insightful wake-up call to parents to break away from the old ways of parenting to the 21st century parenting. Yes, the current ones, they call themselves Gen Z, and we are the old ones, so that's what they say. Thank you, Juliet. Sally Seriam was saying, please, how do you manage a 4-year-old who constantly expresses extreme outrage when he is upset, especially if you offer a conducive environment for self-expression? He either hits his head against things or scatter anything he finds around him and burst into tears. What strategies can you use to teach him self-control and resilience? George, are you there? George is not there. Ethel, can you please take up this question for me? Sorry,
Okay.
Dr. No, Dr. Clement, I meant. Dr. Clement.
Okay, so I think that, yes, I did hear.
Hold on. Just note the question now. I'm trying to read some comments. Then finally, then you can. Should I read the question again, or you are fine with it?
I'm fine with it.
Thank you very much. Let me read some more questions, then we'll come back to the Priscilla. Children learn a lot through observation. The adult should be equally a good role model in all ways. That's very true. Nana Kuya and Cancer, good afternoon. Please, my name is Deborah. You mentioned something about giving children lots of homework, if I'm correct. Can you please advise me on what to do instead of giving them lots of homework? George is not back. So Ethel, this will be your second question. Let's go through these questions and I'll read the extra comments that is there. So the very first question, Ethel.
Yes.
The girl is very beautiful. She's harassed by the boys and comes back very frustrated. How do we help the mother here?
Okay. So as we're talking about this, you know, let's make it general. So whether regardless of their appearance or even gender, I think that it's important to teach our children empathy and some self-awareness. There's nothing wrong in looking the way you're looking, and get them to have some confidence in how they look. Now, in terms of regulating themselves as well, as and when we have other people approaching, I mean, if you have a child who's beautiful and they're being approached by, the interpretation is really important, because I think that is what is leading to the frustration she might be experiencing. One of the best bits would be to teach boundaries as much as possible, but then also, just so it doesn't get into the child's head, let them see from a different perspective that they're beautiful. That's why they're being approached. However, it also does not mean that it has to get into their head and to act in any ways, but then to also understand from the perspective probably of the other. So the part about the you know, because when we talk of empathy, it means that you're putting yourself in other people's shoes as well. That is why they're doing what they're doing. Because once I understand, I mean, when we see beautiful things, we tend to approach, we tend to want to get close. So all that they're doing is as expected. So when you explain from that background, I'm sure that your child would understand. It wouldn't also get into your head probably to look at maybe ways of manipulating the situation or probably getting it to frustrate her. But she'd also be more appreciative of herself. But then the other bit is because you also cannot necessarily manage the other side. We're teaching her to regulate or manage her own emotions, but then also to protect herself. We also need to teach her to create boundaries regarding how she gets to also interact with the children moving forward. So this is what the parent can do to her child, as in take her through that, teach her, let her understand that for beautiful things, definitely you would find other people approaching. We all like beautiful things. And so if they are coming close, yes,
butterflies
but
like beautiful flowers.
well, yes, that's a beautiful way to put it. And so it's very normal or typical. However, she will need to also put in some boundaries as much as possible, because you can control the environment and what is happening, but you can actually protect yourself so that nothing negative happens in terms of the experience. But she should enjoy the beauty. There's nothing you can do about it. Enjoy it, but then also ensure you have some boundaries in place.
Can you please enlighten us about the protection? How can she protect herself the more?
Okay. So the boundaries part is what I'm talking about. We can control ourselves. We can control how we feel, how we think, and how we act. But then we can't necessarily control what other people do. This is outside of our control. And so the protection part would mean that maybe you're not putting yourself in certain places or putting yourself in situations where people can take advantage of you. I don't know how old her child is, but then maybe they want to get, not even, let me give an example. Very young children can actually tell what you can actually they like people that are beautiful. They're attracted to. When you go to the the kindergartens and the grade 1, you actually can, right from the beginning, you can actually see that. And so sometimes they want to be around, they want to hold your bead, they want to touch your hair and all of that. Now, it is typical. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that one is something that you should let a child know so that she doesn't feel bad about maybe how she looks. But protecting herself would also mean that there are boundaries. So nobody can just touch my body without my permission. It's not okay for anybody to get close or probably be in certain spaces so that other people can take advantage of you. And I was asking about the age because I also think it's important for the parent to communicate that age appropriately. If it's a teenager, the conversation will be different. But if it's also a young child as well, the communication also must be different. It must be in a tone, and then also it must be probably described in the way that the child would understand as much as possible. So for very young children, you can tell them that it's okay, but nobody should touch you. If somebody touches you, we're looking at the no touching rules. If anybody touches you inappropriately, come and tell mommy about it. You can tell your teacher about it. If somebody touches your breast, if somebody touches this part of your body, it is not okay. So this is a way to protect yourself because, like you said, butterflies like what beautiful flowers or probably nectar, yes. And so if it's not allowed, I'm sorry, the butterfly can't come.
That's right, very right. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Clement, the 4-year-old who is very expresses outrage at the listing.
Okay, so I think that well, not all children are the same in terms of how you manage their emotions. So maybe what I would say would, maybe a blanket thing that people may pick something out from. But I'm concerned about this child, and I feel that this child may need an assessment. When in doubt, you speak to a professional because extreme emotions, especially temper tantrums and other things, could be pointers to certain things, especially with head banging and other things. So I would encourage this parent to bring this child for an assessment. But in general, if a child, at a certain age, it's okay to have temper tantrums, like we call them terrible twos. Even when they are 3, they are still doing those same things and all. But I guess that when a child is opposing you, the parent, or is getting upset at certain things, there are ways to go about it. some people may choose to distract the child with maybe some other activity, whether it's a toy or an activity or something. Some people may also choose to ignore, because for some children, the more attention you give to them when they're, excuse me to say, misbehaving, it encourages them to, keep going at it, keep doing it, keep doing it. You could wait for the child to calm down and you talk about the situation. I mean, age appropriate talk. Because it will surprise you to know that a 4-year-old, they actually know when they are doing the wrong thing. And if you're able to point them to the fact that this and that is what they did that they should not repeat, I think that may help in some cases. But sometimes to avoid this whole situation where the child goes into a fit and everything, you need to have established rules and routines. So it's like it's a primary prevention. You are taking care of it. You know that if I do this, or I can have my toy for so and so hours, I can have my tablet for this maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour, and things. Sometimes I do it. Even last night, I had to take a device from a child because he had gone past the time he's supposed to, and he went into a fit, but it was resolved. So I think you need to know your child. You need to know what manner of resolving things, because every child is different. They all have different temperaments. But for this child specifically, I think that if the head banging and the temper tantrums are really out of way, this child will need an assessment, and there are professionals who help with behavioral therapy and other things. So we're available. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Clement. Yeah, so Sally, there you have it. In actual fact, it's quite scary what you're experiencing with this your 4-year-old. And don't forget that it impacts in their life as adults. So the earlier we seek for professional help, the better for all of us. So you can chat with all of them privately and seeking for professional help. Take it up from there. Adra Pamford, your hand has been up for quite some time. Let me allow you to ask your question.
Yes, I want to ask this question. When
Okay.
Madam Ethel was speaking, okay, she said something like, we should let the children be open-minded, and then we should let them know every mistake is okay, you can work around it. But my question is, what of those mistakes that are irreversible, or those mistakes that leaves a mark? So wouldn't it rather be okay for a parent to try respect the child, make sure, guide them, than leave them to make certain mistakes? That is my first question. And then my second question is concerning the emotional intelligence. For a child who doesn't believe there's a meaning in life, who doesn't see meaning in anything, how do you help that child to build himself emotionally, intelligently?
All right. Ethel, there you
Yes.
go.
Right. So maybe I'll start with the bottom, the last question, the part
Okay.
about a child who doesn't see any meaning in life. And I'm also wondering, oh, I doubt that there's a young child. It means they really have gone through a lot of experiences to come to that point where they have no meaning in life. Could that also be that maybe they're struggling with certain challenges, certain situations like some depression at that point in their lives? If you have a child like that, what I'll do, and I think what I think would be very helpful would be to actually see a professional, just so you can actually go down into what might have actually accounted or resulted in the child getting to that point. And then you'll be able to then deal or tackle specifically with the challenges. But like I mentioned earlier on, the environment definitely plays a key. So from the very beginning, as you have your child, they're growing up, you are teaching by example. That is through your own actions as well. And so they are learning from that more than what it is you are telling them. And so it's important that we are intentional. So it always comes back to the intentional parenting, that I'm constantly stressing on. We have to be very intentional, very particular about how we're going about our own lives, because that is definitely communicating something or trickling down to our children. So that is one. I would encourage that you speak with a professional, that's a counselor, just so that you can come to the bottom of what exactly might have gone on to the point where maybe your child has no meaning, maybe in life. Then the first part would be the irreversible situations. Well, every action has a consequence. And I think that children learn also through their own experiences. But I think there's a clause in what I said, that there are particular situations where, as a parent, so I mentioned earlier on about the helicopter parenting. Now, these are parents who want to make sure everything is as is. And so they are constantly hovering over their children. They're not even allowing them to explore and to learn and to make some mistakes. But at the same time, there are situations where you have to come in. You have to reason out with them. You have to teach them. You have to then explain certain things to them. So it depends on the situation. It doesn't mean that for every experience, you have to let the children go to the point where they actually get to hit the wall before you come in. Some situations, reasonable experiences, they will need to have, and then you can use it as teachable moments. But the other bit is that there are other situations where you have to come in as the adult and insist on, because those situations might not be reversible. Then the other part will also be explaining or letting your children know that there are consequences also to actions, and that there are some that definitely will lead to irreversible experiences. And depending on the age of the child, if it's a teenager, sometimes they would yield, they would listen, but for some as well, they might not. And so, although we can control certain situations as parents, we also would have to understand that sometimes there's nothing more that you can do. But it's also important, or always important, to also make it
It's also important to Airtel, you are dropping off.
461472. Okay, Doc is back now. Doc is muted.
Yes, I dropped off.
Yes.
I
Would
dropped
you like
off.
me to touch on that again?
No, we don't have much time, but I guess all of them listen to it, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
I had a question for, yes, I had a comment for Sally. For Sally. Another question, a reaction. Sally, please, not having the person expresses no meaning in life is one of the signs for suicidal ideations, and please don't take it lightly. The professional advice that we are asking you to seek for, take care of it, seek for professional help, because it's a sign of suicidal addictions, and you can't take it lightly. Then again, some mistakes are irreversible. I think that, like Ethel is saying, you just have to drum it into the ears as hard as you can, and there's nothing more that you can do about it. There was a question about school that I wanted to get to George. Okay. Okay, Gloria Atubra, unmute yourself and.
Thank you.
Yes, please ask your question. Hello, Gloria.
I'm having a follow-up question to the last. Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yes, please. It's a follow-up question. So, regarding the last speaker's question, what are the signs? What is the child doing that makes her to come to the conclusion that the child has given up, has hope in life, so that in case other children are also manifesting these signs, we can tell that similar things are going on and also seek assistance. Thank you.
Etta, would you like to respond to that?
Right. So I think that so if let's say we have a child who has given up in life, maybe some of the things would be for instance, not enjoying things that maybe they used to previously enjoy. They're keeping more to themselves. They are not as interactive as you know them in terms of personality. There's been a change, maybe in terms of so things like they are maybe sleeping too much or too little. Sometimes even their words, they might not be very direct. So let me give an example. I have a teenager who recently mentioned to mom on their way home that how would he feel if he was no longer in this world? And I think that for mom, that just raised a red flag. And she came to mention to a teacher, and the teacher mentioned to me. So in terms of exploring, there have been some challenges at home. Some dispute between father and mother has been very, very bad to the point where there's some abuse of a sort. And he also feels like he's not doing well academically. At least that would have helped. He feels that would have actually helped at least to make things better or lighter at home. So there's some responsibility on his part, and he feels he's failed in that regard. So maybe if he's not there, things will be better. So sometimes I might not say it directly, but when you approach, they might ask certain questions that will show, so how would you feel if I'm not here? Some will also come directly and say to you, I wish I wasn't here. Some when they're upset or they have this fits of rage, they might say it, they might say it just to express how they feel. So eating too much, eating too little, lack of pleasure in the things they used to before, they're keeping to themselves a lot of the time. There's been a change, there's no motivation in terms of life and doing, things as before. These are all ways of communicating that definitely it's time to see a professional just to get some support and to explore what might be going on with the child.
All right, thank you very much, Ethel. Achu, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Please, I want to find out how do you handle a child who is 11 years but always behaving as 7 to 8 years, always playing. Even if you send him, it's like the thing is child right in front of the child, but you go around and go and play and come back and pick the thing for you. I mean, how do you go about it, please?
Okay. Hannah Essie Wilson and TechnoSpark 5 Pro. I'm very surprised at you that you've still left your microphones on. I'm very surprised because, I mean, these are basic Zoom meeting. This thing. TechnoSpark F. George, can you please respond to that question for us? Unmute yourself, George.
Hello, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I hope your network will be much better now. Okay, go ahead, George. George, your network is not good enough. Let me. George, we can't hear you. Dr. Kemet, can you please respond to that question for us?
Okay, Musafa. Okay, so the 11-year-old behaving like a 7-year-old and 8-year-old.
That's right.
I keep saying that when in doubt, consult a professional. I mean, there could be various reasons why this child is behaving like this, but for us, we need to put the whole context into perspective. That's why when you see a professional, we take so much detail, something that we call a history. It's possible that this 11-year-old is actually functioning developmentally at this stage, but we'll need to put other things in perspective, how the child is doing academically, how the child is doing with some things we call adaptive skills. So their concept of time? Are they able to do activities of daily living? Are they able to, are you able to send them on errands? We need to put a lot of things into perspective to be able to say that maybe the problem is an intellectual disability where this child is actually functioning at a younger age. But it would all come to light when we're able to take a comprehensive history. So I think that you should see a professional so that we can see how best to help with this. And for most things, if it's just a behavioral thing, we have people who can help schedule activity for the child. If it's schoolwork they have to do, we help the parents to be able to schedule this activity. Probably maybe if the child is not also paying so much attention to details, and we could teach you how to break up the activity into bits that the child can take from time to time. So we need to take things in a full perspective. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kremet. So, Achu, seek for professional help to expand, to investigate your matter for more comprehensive support. Let me read some comments. One from Judith. Ethel, this question will come to you when I'm done reading a few of the comments. Supposing a child is mocked by mates due to poor performance in school, for example, sports, and this child becomes withdrawn, how can the parents help this child bounce back and become more emotionally intelligent? Well, that's a very important and realistic question, because I remember some mates of us who dropped because of things like this. So it's a very fair question. Gifty Mensa, my first experience, I've learned a lot. I'm living with pressing issues that affect my emotions all the time. Thank you. Well, seek for help. Lydia, making use of opportunities requires the parents to be present anytime they are with the child. Okay. Frimpong, uniform careers impact on kids hugely and leaves other careers out of school because they are not encouraged by school teachers due to criteria. Uniform careers, calling it as universal careers, shall even encourage kids into astrology, etc. I'm missing your point, Frimpong, but Technopop 4, also a student who are being analyzed by their stature, by their peers, you are slim, you don't have bottles, and so on. Dr. Benedicta Appiah, please, how do I help a child who sucks his fingers at age 15? Dr. Ackerman, this question will come to you. Angela Polly, as parents, we need to be emotionally intelligent ourselves in order to better help our children manage theirs. That's very true. Pop 4, how do we help parents who are reactional and the children are also picking the attitude? Well, they need to stop being reactional and be more pragmatic and realistic, as you see. But Ethel, maybe you can note it down if you have time. That will be the second question.
Okay.
Samsung SM, please, how can you encourage a child who is always shy and afraid of talking in a crowd of people, social anxiety? There is professional help for that. Techno something. How do I manage an 11-year-old boy who is always waiting till I ask him to go and read his books? He's always seen playing football with friends. Techno Spark 5 Pro. I'm out of words for you, I must say. I wish I could take you off. Nanakia in Cancer. Good afternoon. Please, my name is Deborah. You mentioned something about giving children lots of homework, if I'm correct. please, can you advise me on what to do instead of giving them lots of homework? Dr. Ackerman, that would be your second question. Okay, so 2 questions each, and let's see how we do with the rest of the messages. So, Ethel, let me start with you. The first question first, then Dr. Ackerman will answer her first question, and we'll see about that for the other questions. Please go ahead, Ethel.
Okay, so if I remember the first question, it had to do with bouncing back maybe from poor performance.
That's right.
Okay. So one of the bits would be for every parent to offer that child emotional support. We all do make mistakes from time to time. It doesn't go well all the time. And I think that we need to communicate that so our children get it. We can't always be at the top, even for us as professionals. I mean, there are times where certain things don't go well, and we're human beings as well. So as part of that, definitely it's important to reassure your child that we all do go through that. And so if this didn't go well today, I'm sure we can do something about it the next time. Then also, I think that it's important for parents to also see find out what exactly is going on. Is it a one-time experience, or there have been other situations where it's been very consistent? Now, children can be very mean. Sometimes when you hear some of the words that are spewed over the place in regards to maybe other students, it can be really bad, and it gets to impact the child's self-worth. So maybe also identify the root cause. What exactly is going on, my child? How come consistently they are not doing well, maybe in a subject? Sometimes it could be that maybe they're having a particular bad experience with a particular teacher, if it's maybe one subject, or generally the child has a general challenge with their learning. Then maybe they might also have to have an assessment done to be sure it's not a learning disability or learning challenge of a sort. Because once you do that, then you can have a plan in place or some interventions on providing the right support, and then also making accommodations available for the child in the classroom. Because if not, and we are always quick to come to a point of conclusion that my child is just not good, then we haven't also helped that child. So if it's a one-time situation where the child does well, but then suddenly there's been a decline, maybe something else has gone on. For instance, if there's some trauma in the family, maybe somebody passed just recently, that can also impact the child and then also affect their learning. Or maybe a child, maybe their friend is not doing, they've fallen out in terms of a relationship. That can also impact the child. So there could be several factors for which the child might not have done well. And if it's a one-time situation, explore, but provide some emotional support and let your child know that it's okay. It didn't go well this time, but it can go well, or it can get better the next time. So these are some of the suggestions we can do when it comes to poor performance in our children. But if it's very consistent, I think that you should also see or speak with a professional and have an assessment done, because there might be other things contributing to why your child is performing poorly in school. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ackerman, take up your question, please.
Okay, so I'll start with the thumb sucking.
That means that
question.
there is something missing to add to get to the answer that is written the equal.
I think that for many children, I mean, growing up, sucking is part of your survival instincts, but it gets to a point where one needs to stop. But if this has gone on for a very long time, then we need to appreciate the fact that it's a habit which will need some work, and it may be difficult to, you need to work at it to be able to break it. The first thing that I ask myself is this child still thumb sucking as a way of dealing with stress, or maybe are they doing that to soothe themselves, etc. But you need to have a discussion with this child and talk openly about this behavior and the need to be able to stop, because continuous thumb sucking also has other problems to do with dentition, like the teeth, the palate, and other things which may require a dentist to see later. But there's been a lot of people have tried several things, which some have worked, some have not worked. People have advocated for younger children, maybe putting a sock or a bandage on the hand. Other people have gone to say that you can put even something that is bitter to deter the child from sucking that thumb. What you can also do is to have a system of maybe like a reward and incentive thing. So we agree that if you do not suck, if I don't see you sucking your thumb for so and so days, you get this. If you do it for maybe a week, you forfeit something. So it has to be like a sort of reward and incentive situation for you to be able to reinforce the positive behavior. So if a child stops sucking, you give something or you praise or other things. Other things you can also do is maybe remind them about the need to stop. If it comes to us, you can actually visit a dentist and say that maybe, most children, I'm not saying scare the child, but many people, once they enter the dentist office and they know that this thumb sucking can affect the way their teeth will be arranged and even the spaces in their mouth and everything. A talk can be hard, which can help with it. But these are a few things that off the top of my head, right, as to how to help. The second question, I briefly went off, so I don't think I was able to read that second question. Dr. Asa, the second question you...
I have misplaced that myself. But even to add to what you were saying about the thumb sucking, I remember when we were kids, they would just rub your thumb with Nivaquine, which is very, very bitter. They'll just mash it and you not go near your thumb. It worked. Some of us, it worked for us. So maybe crude method, but just rubbing something very bitter on the thumb. So you put it in your mouth, you don't go near it. And the old schools will tell you. Ethel, can you do your second question?
Doc, can you please touch on that? I seem to have forgotten the second question. I think is it possible?
Yes, I'll get it surely.
Okay, all right, we'll just pull that.
I think you did answer your second question first.
Okay.
I don't know. Can I go ahead?
Yes, Techno Pop 4, go ahead. Let me unmute you.
I think the second, you were going to tell her to answer it while their peers call them by their statures, telling them you are slim, bullying them by their stature and calling them names in class.
Please take your time and come again. I did not get what you said.
I said the second question you were going to tell her to answer was about peers calling their friends names by their statures. Like, oh, you are slim, oh, you don't have buttocks, you don't have, I think that was the second question you told her to.
Yes. Body issues, body image.
Okay. So when it comes to body image, I think that it's quite similar to the previous. I mean, in some ways, maybe I should have linked the two then. There are certain things that you can't change about yourself, but you can teach children to be proud of. And that doesn't change anything about the individual. So instead of focusing on being short or being thin or being slim or whatever it is, why not focus on the positives? Get your child, highlight those things, the traits your child has got, so that can be a thing for them as well in terms of boosting their confidence. And, at the end of the day, I think that it still comes back to the parent. When you walk out there, people are going to see the dress you're wearing and comment about it. I don't like your shoes. They're too yellow, too bright. I don't like your earrings. They're too big. Everybody would see you and say something about you. But what is it about you? You have to, at the end of the day, focus on what it is I have and building the individual's confidence. And so let your child know that everybody might have a particular perception, but that is not what is. What is about you is this. You're beautiful, you're intelligent, you are this, you are that. Look for what the child is good at and highlight those things, because that is the most important thing at the end of the day, rather than allowing them, for example, to think of all the other things that they might not be. And then for the things that you can change, for instance, about their height. I know that height to a certain point, or maybe at a certain phase, like for example, when you get to 18, maybe that one, the growth ceases. So if we're short, maybe you're coming from a family where people are not that tall, and that's okay. It does not change anything about who you are. And so personality, what makes that individual them, is not just about their height. These are trivial things. These are outside of the mark. And so I think it's important for the parent then to highlight the positives in that child as much as possible.
Okay, thank you, Ethel. Lillian.
Okay, hi, my name is Lillian. I just have a question. How do I assist a 13-year-old who has developed an attitude that the parents don't love him, and now it's affecting his academics, and he just doesn't have the morale to even behave well, because he says there is nothing that he gains from him behaving well because everyone seems to hate him?
Dr.
Thank
Kremet.
you.
Thank you, Lillian. Dr. Kremet.
Okay, I think this is quite similar to another scenario Phil spoke about, but this child has to come. It's similar to the one who didn't have a will to live or do other things. So we need to see the child as possible. Maybe the child is depressed. Yes.
So there is more to it than just this comment that I don't get anything out of being good. So professional assessment would really help, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, Judith.
Hi, good afternoon. So somebody posted a comment earlier about ways kids and adults can tolerate and accommodate non-verbal kids. And I have a follow-up question to that. So non-verbal kids are usually judged because they are mostly quiet. So I want to know how they can be encouraged to engage more, and also how verbal kids can be taught to embrace children like that without being judgmental. Because maybe I think it's a position they have, probably doctor can explain better why they are usually quiet and how they can be encouraged, and also how verbal kids can be taught to embrace such kids. So that's my question.
Okay, thank you for your question. Ethel. Ethel, can
Right.
you
So
respond to that?
yes, please. So in terms of the question you just asked, it still goes back to the environment. Children are a product of the environment. What they're seeing, definitely what they're being exposed to, is what they're also showing to a large extent. And sometimes, even if the home is okay, at times the kind of company they're also keeping can also impact how they also behave towards others. And so if there's a child who is nonverbal and you want a child who is verbal to be more accepting, it means that the teacher in school and then also the parent at home should, like I mentioned earlier about the teachable moments, everything that is, we are in a space where we're encouraging inclusion as much as possible. All right. And so I think that for parents as well, we need to teach our children to be more open to engaging and interacting with everybody. I remember growing up, we had a child, and then I didn't understand, but now I'm more appreciative because of the work I do. We had a child in school, and I think thinking about it, I think he had cerebral palsy. And so he had speech, but it wasn't clear. His walking was, he didn't have a very good gait when he was walking. There was a lot of saliva that was coming from the side of the mouth and all that. And I remember that time he was called John. So they used to say, Johnny, eat, that thing. And we used to make fun of him. And I think about it, and I'm saddened by what we were doing there, but it was because we did not know And so a lot of the onus actually lies on parents and adults. So in the classroom as well, sometimes even the teachers are the ones who are making fun of the children. And so the children would see that and pick from it. And so I think that if we're going to be a lot more open, it means I would have to pass on that to our children. But we are more open and encouraging other children to be open to interacting with others. I've had situations where some parents would actually withdraw their children from school simply because there are children in the school that have special they are special needs children. They want to withdraw them. They don't want them to sit by them and all that. Now you are teaching your children, whether directly or indirectly, that it's not okay to actually interact with other children who require some support, yet it is no fault of theirs. So the empathy we're talking about, I think that it's important that we get to teach, that we get to transmit that to our children. And that is through the experiences as they're watching the cartoons, as they're watching the programs, we're walking on the streets, the children we're seeing, we need to pass on that information to them. So I think that it's important we get to do that, all of us. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you very much. Talking about schools and all that, Ethel, let me ask you this question. The schools need to create a supportive environment for issues like this. And those of us in the community also need to support this environment that we need so that our children will build resilience and emotional intelligence and all that. So in what ways can the school take the first step so that we, the community, can support?
Okay. So I've had some very interesting experiences over the years with the schools. I think right from the very beginning, I've been practicing for 9 years. I remember when I started, what I used to do would go to the schools and have interactions with teachers, have some engagements with the educators. It is free of charge. Basically, just to disseminate some information about a lot of things, sometimes even to ask particular topics or particular situations they have, so we could have conversations about it, just so we could teach. And for the most part, the experience was negative, or the feedback was negative. They are not ready to learn. Unfortunately, they'll tell you that their calendar has already been created, and so there's no room for that. And that was very discouraging. And so I think that for the most part, if there's anything, the education must go down. But that would mean that they must also open their doors to us, because some of us are ready to do it free of charge. Just come and then have conversations, see how best we can actually support them in the schools, also get to interact with the students, and also get to do the interaction also with their parents, because that is where you'd find all of these three important bodies. So that children are there, the teachers are there, and then also the parents can also be found there during the PTA meetings that they get to have. So that is one. And then for the community, I think that for every community, it always starts with the family. So right from the very beginning with adults, just as we all are, we have heard the information. What are we doing in our various homes? Because that is how we get to become a community. It starts from there and it trickles down gradually to everyone as well. Let us share, as and when we get to have some of these opportunities, let us share with others as well, so they also get to join in and get to learn from this as much as possible. Then we can get to a point where we are more open and we are more inclusive as we desire. So I think these are some suggestions that can be very helpful for the schools. A lot of us are willing to do that in terms of that engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethel. And interestingly, let me add that after they are hesitant to let you engage with them and you push them and they create that space that you engage with them, then now they are asking for more, chasing you that come and do some more for them.
Magic, yes.
Come and let's have
That's
more,
so true.
come and let's have more
That's
engagement. We didn't know. Sometimes they are
Yeah, that's
impacted by
very true.
stigma and lack of knowledge. So they are hesitant to even open the door for you. But finally, when one person says, well, let's open the door for them, and you come in, now they don't want you to go and they want you to come, keep coming, keep coming. But anyway.
Very true, Doc.
Very true. Dr. Grace, your question, then I'll read some comments. Dr. Grace, are you there? She's gone, okay. Unmute yourself. Okay, so let me
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, I'm watching you from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And actually, one of the teachers in Ghana alerted me to this conference, and I'm finding it very interesting. So I have hopefully two really quick questions. One is, I know the mental health services are not that available to most of the communities, most of the people in Ghana. And when it comes to pediatrics or the children that we're talking about, how accessible are these services? Do the public school kids get referred to you? As well as, I know some of the private schools do it, but I thought it was interesting that Dr. Ethel had mentioned that she even offers some of her services for free. And the second part of my question is, last year when I was visiting Ghana, we actually did in one of the schools a forum that had to do with teaching kids to recognize really trying to prevent sexual abuse. And, you know, because in the Ghanaian culture, many of the kids don't even feel that they can go and tell their parents that somebody, uncle, tried to touch them or whatever, because they would be blamed for misbehaving. And it was quite difficult because some of people were even hiding their faces when you're trying to talk about biological things. And we were coming into it as a medical team, approaching it from that angle. And it was quite difficult because of, you know, people's religious feelings and all that, so that if you mention biological parts, they get quite upset. So I was wondering how you guys deal with all of that and how accessible are you? Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Clement will respond to the first one, and Ethel will respond to the second one. Then we'll see how it goes. So, Dr. Clement.
Okay, so I think that mental health services are expanding, and even with services for children, the major psychiatric hospitals, we all run child and adolescent mental health clinics. Kolebu does the same, Komfanochi does the same, Tamale does the same. So basically we've covered, thankfully we are getting more numbers, and mental health services is moving towards community care. So even though we're still not enough, we are trying to cover enough base, and we have referral pathways in place where we get referrals from our nurses in the districts. And also in terms of as with the private schools do a lot, but I think that the government institutions are also doing some as well, because we have, as a private psychiatric hospital, we have collaborations with Ghana Education Service, but it's with usually the assessments Center for Special Needs. So we get referrals from them for assessment, and once in a while you have senior high, senior high schools and other schools like bringing children for assessment. So I think we still have a long way to go in doing the advocacy and doing the education to make it very well done, but it's improved, because from the time I joined psychiatry till now, I see a vast difference. And COVID actually did us a lot of good in terms of mental health coming to the forefront. We had lots of schools, even parents bringing in their children for assessment, because people were now home with their children, and we're now seeing that no, this and that had changed about the child, and took steps to address.
Peggy, are you done?
Yes, please, I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. Ethel.
Yes, Doc. I kind of missed a bit, I think, due to the internet or the network. So if I could probably have that again, please, just briefly, that question.
I also missed it here, but
Okay.
she was talking about an issue. They came into Ghana and went into the community to teach about threats of sexual abuse and the responsiveness, the blame game.
Yes.
And all that was prevalent. Some were not comfortable to talk about what are we doing about all that. Maybe she would be in a better position to make her question much clearer. But that was the
Okay.
bits and pieces that I also picked up. Dr. Last, if you are there, if you come back on board, I'll let you ask your question again. Maybe from far from Philadelphia.
So I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes,
So
give it
I
another
found,
give it another shot and let's see.
all right. Well, I was talking about in terms of Ghanaian context and the very thick overlay of religious feelings, so that people are not able to even talk about body parts and things like that, because the approach. I'm actually a gynecologist, but we were there doing sort of pediatrics at the school, and we were trying to figure out a way to help children get comfortable with telling their parents when an adult or somebody tries to entice them or do something to them. But I find that the biggest problem is that in our Ghanaian culture, children are not used to going to even say things to their parents and not have the language to even tell them that somebody tried to touch them. And sometimes when children try to tell parents, the child is blamed for being a bad kid. So how do you get around those kinds of issues?
Okay, so
Okay.
Ethel, do you have it now?
Yes, I do. And I understand what you mean. So I think that it's important.
Wow.
Ethel, unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that it's important that usually when we're going to a particular community, we're very much about the culture that is in there. Although we generally will have a particular culture, that's a Ghanaian culture. Every culture would have something unique, or every community might have something very unique about it. And so we look at gatekeepers. It's important that we just don't go, but we have ways and strategize in terms of the communication. For example, somebody parts are not even mentioned. It's not supposed to be. So we'd have to probably go in a particular way and say things in a particular way. But I think what helps usually is in terms of the teaching bit or communicating bit would be ensuring that we're using visuals as much as possible, and then also get to communicate. That is a problem, because engagement cannot be just with the students, but you also have to do with the community itself as well. Now, I understand the challenge you have with some communities going in there. Let's say, let me use some experiences I've also had. We have maybe a child who's coming into the facility and currently pregnant. She's about maybe 12 or 13, and is actually the stepfather. And although it's a mother that came with the child, she's blaming the child for what has happened. It's education that is needed, and it's not a one-day situation to deal with. It would have to be, so although you came for a period, it would mean that there should have been, for instance, maybe some individuals that would be setting to have regular visits, to have active engagement as much as possible with the families involved. So they get to see that what has been normalized is actually not the norm. Because at this point in time, the language is that what you consider as atypical is actually the norm in those communities. It's very normal to have 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, unfortunately, pregnant by individuals in the communities, and where mothers have sat with the children, not with the men or with the fathers for actually impregnating them, because they're also thinking that if the father is put in jail, then you are taking away how do you say it in Tree, so
Source of livelihood, source of livelihood.
yeah, the source of livelihood, absolutely. And so they look at all of these things. There's several factors, that come into play. So it's not just about going to mention it to the parent, but there are a number of things as well. Who's going to take care of the child? What happens afterwards? Is it going to be a police issue? There's quite a number of things that come in, from just that one situation. And so gatekeepership is very important during such, and then also get to work or go on such such missions with other community health workers as much as, because they can then follow through, they can continue the process when you're away. So just a few tips here and there, and I think that should be helpful in the long run. But the education is definitely important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ethel. Thank you very much. We are almost past 2 o'clock. 42, lots of messages that I've not read, but we can't keep on. Let me take your final words, Ethel and Peggy. Let me start with you, Peggy. Your final words for this, then let me wrap it up.
Okay. Let me attempt to put on my video. I was trying to
Save the internet struggle.
yes.
I know.
But anyways, maybe let me go ahead. So I mean, my final words are that children are the eye sort of into the family. So I want us all to just remember that children see, they hear, they understand whatever we do. And most of the time, they may be taking on our problems instead of their own. So it's important that in raising resilient and emotionally intelligent children, we also are very cognizant of our own emotions and our own behaviors to be able to serve as role models to them. So let's keep the family unit strong and help our children thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ethel.
Right. So just to add on, I would say this, that definitely children are a product of their environment. And that means you and I, we are currently the adults in the lives of these children. And so they're only going to imitate. We're imprinting as every single experience that is going on, what we are doing with them. It means we're actually creating an imprint in their lives as much as possible. And so we should be very intentional when we're parenting, whether or not you are even a direct parent, your significant other, you are influencing or impacting the life of that child. Even as a teacher, you're definitely impacting that child as well. So if you're very mindful of what we're saying, what we're doing, and how we're going about managing our own challenges and difficulties, because that is exactly what they would also do in the future. Just to leave this, let me leave this one example. A parent who is very upset, unfortunately, was very late for a program, and for the most part had been very intentional in her parenting. One time the younger one comes almost in a fit, ready, losing it, and wanted to express her feelings, which is something she has been encouraging all these years. And then we have an older child that's about 10 years approaching the young child and saying, "Mommy's a little busy today, but today you can actually tell me everything. I'm here and I'm willing to listen." Now, that is a teachable moment. I mean, for the mom, recognizing that all these years, she had actually been leaving an imprint because she had been doing the same thing for the 10-year-old. So I'm hoping that by this, we'll actually get to do that, because that is how we get to raise resilient and emotionally intelligent children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ethel Obentrev, Dr. Peggy Asiedu-Clement, and George Ekun Ferguson. Thank you very much for your wonderful insights. For me, what I would add is that as parents, we should be part of the school's activities of their children. Ask, support, find ways to let the schools develop nurturing environments for the school so that our children will thrive when it comes to resilience and emotional intelligence. On our part, what we need to do is not rocket science. I mean, active listening, letting the children have their free say, but being firm with them, creating that conducive environment for them to speak their mind, to thrive. I think it's all little things that we can do. It's not rocket science. But then again, we should not forget that their generation is quite different from ours. And so the style of our parents is different from ours. They should be our friends, and that we can easily help them to thrive when it comes to resilience and emotional intelligence. On that note, I would want to thank each and every one of you participants, almost 300 of us. Some have dropped up now, but I want to thank all of us, our facilitators, Dr. Ekremet, Ethel, Obentrev, George Ekun Ferguson. I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this seminar. Those of you who are here for the first time, this will be posted on YouTube, hopefully by Monday. All the other editions are out there. You can have a look at them. So on that note, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Amanko Arthur. Hopefully, God willing, next month, same time, meet again with another exciting topic. Have a good weekend.
Please, we asked of Dr. Ethel's contacts just in case we want to have external talk with her. She mentioned, but we didn't get it. If she can do that for us.
She's going to stay online. So do the backstage thing. Ethel, please stay online for them to contact you directly through direct messaging.
Well noted, Doc.
Thank you very much. So on that note, the program has ended. We'll see each other, God willing, next month. Dr. Ackerman and Ethel will stay online to do direct messaging.
Okay, for a while. Thank
For a
you.
while. I know I've taken your time. Sorry about that. It gets interesting and interesting. The questions keep coming. You don't know when to stop. I have 55 messages that I've not read.
Wow.
And there are a lot of questions in there. Go and seek for professional advice. There are some tough questions. The answer
So I
is
think
that
what I would do is to probably put my work line there so that people can reach us. I think that should be fine.
okay, so that you can run away.
Please, we want one-on-one.
Please post it again, or some of us we didn't see, or we've written 054461. The rest they get. Hello, Dr. Ethel. Kindly repost the contacts, please.
Okay, I'll do that, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
0544 461 472.
Please, if you call me now, you will get me. I'm back in clinic, but afterwards.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much, doctor. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Doc. Please, can I drop off?
Yes, please do.
Permission
Now
to
they have.
Thank you very much.
Please do. Thank you so much. We
All right,
appreciate
thank you so
this.
much. All right, bye.
Bye-bye then.
Hello, doctor. Please, can we get the
Yes.
YouTube channel? Please, can we get the YouTube channel so we can go there and take, listen to the record? Thank you.
It's not. Just type in on Monday. Monday, hopefully, it should be there. But even now, you can just type in MHA Webinar 26. You'll find most of our past seminars there. Just type in. Go to YouTube. Just the normal YouTube. MHA capital Webinar 26, 25, 24. All our past seminars are there. Are you okay with that, please?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Alpha, please, I've put my work line there, so I'll kindly drop off and wish us all.
I've taken enough of your
weekend.
time already. Thank you very much. We really appreciate this.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Sure, glad to be here.
Oh, Grace, are you there? Dr. Grace, are you there?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
You wanted the number for George Ferguson, right?
yes, please.
Okay, 024
Hang on. 024
613
613
03
03
16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
he had internet issues, so he dropped off along the way.
yes, I noticed that. Yeah, I figured I need to find him. So, but now where do you practice? Are you in Accra?
Yes, I'm with the Mental Health Authority. I'm the Director for Health Promotion.
Wonderful. So I'm going to come and look for you when I'm visiting.
I'm very happy to meet with you, Grace.
Are you part of the, we have the Ghanaian Physicians and Surgeons Foundation here that is linked to the Ghanaian physicians there?
No, I'm not a physician. I'm not a physician.
Okay.
My
mental
PhD
health
was
services.
my PhD was in mental health literacy, so more or less like research and policy and all that.
That's wonderful. Well, my mother-in-law happens to have been the first Ghanaian mental health, professionally trained mental health nurse way back when. Mrs. Kumi, Margaret Kumi, from a long time ago. So because of that, I often track what's going on in mental health in Ghana. So, but this was very exciting and interesting. And
Yes, yeah.
I will thank the teacher who alerted me to this, and we'll get in touch when I'm in Ghana. Thank you.
You can have my number just in case. And
okay, good. Yeah, let me write that down. Okay. Thank you for being that generous. Okay, go ahead.
020
020
16
16
50
50
749
50749
49.
020 16 50 749.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
It's my WhatsApp line, so it can be real time.
Oh, all right, wonderful. Good. Yeah. I'm really curious about a lot of things that you guys talked about, and especially the cultural aspect. Although we're talking about the kids, encouraging them to come and to tell the parents and all that, our culture really does not encourage that. No, and I've been watching some shows in Ghana. I think there's some particular entertainment show where they come on and they bring kids that have been abused by their dads or uncle or somebody. And I'm just amazed at how many times people write, well, it's the kid's fault and things like that. I think it's really distressing.
Yeah. There's some serious ignorance in the system and hiding behind cultural and social perspective to playing a blame game.
Yes.
Playing a blame game on the kids, but
right. And well, like the other doctor said, they're wondering about who's going to be. Well, if the man is taken away, who's going to serve the family and all? So.
Yes. Yeah, that's also that's the other side of it. That's why either they make the case a foolish case or they don't even talk about it at all.
I know.
Because you find people going to plead because I mean there are horrible stories out there, but it's all we have to increase the sensitization so that people will come to know that it's wrong.
Right. So thank you. This has been a lot of fun for me anyway. And I'm George, Dr. Ferguson, I'm interested in because my mom is actually an Ekam Ferguson as well. Okay. So I have a feeling there's some kind of connection there, so I have to figure it out.
You have to figure it out. That's all right. I'll tell him to expect a call from you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Okay. Bye-bye then.